Alright, let's move on to the leg. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and say let's mask the area that we can extrude our leg out. Let me hold it down Control and let me go back to also freehand so that I can just draw out the mask. Okay, Control click to reverse the mask. Use Move, Alt click to reset the pivot to there, and Alt click on this rotating arrow to reset the orientation. Okay, now I can drag it down. The length of the leg is around 3 to 4 head lengths, but sometimes I make it longer just to make it look better. I can also scale it this way to make it more flat at the bottom. Okay. Alright, and let me clear the mask. Okay. And then we can use smoothing to retopologize this part basically. Alright. And then let me go ahead and mask this area one more time, and this time I want to change my stroke to lasso. Okay, and let me mask this area. Okay, Control click to reverse it, and then I'm going to use the rotation here. Alt click to reset the pivot to be over there. Alt click there to reset the orientation, and then I can rotate out the legs just to make it spread out a little bit. That's probably too much. Alright. And then I can also say let's make this guy looks more like a tube because it's really sharp on the back, so I'm trying to give it a little bit more volume. Okay. Use some smoothing, whatever, just to make it look more like a rounded cylindrical shape instead of having a lot of, weird tilting directions. And make it more like a tube. Okay. Alright, and then afterwards we can start to define some of the important features. First of all, the leg is not tilting forward. So let me use rotation just to rotate it backwards a little bit. And I can also reposition it. Okay, and then let's talk about different the contours through different angles. First of all, from the side view, one thing you can do is drag the bottom part and drag them backwards like this. It's like this bending backwards on the bottom. Okay, and then you have the muscles on the back to create a bigger badge. Okay, so something like this for the lower leg. You can use smooth to make it thinner at the bottom. For the upper leg or the side, you have bigger badges, so I'm going to drag it towards the front and the back just to give it that. Okay. Now, how big are these will be determined on the feature of the leg. It's based on the different people. So I'm not going to say it's going to be like this exactly, but generally speaking, you have a bigger curvature on the back, and the front can be pretty straight if it's a generic people. But you can also give it many up and downs to get a nice curvature. Okay, and then of course you have the knee in the middle just to bulge out a little bit. Right. All right. And oftentimes this part can have a backward arc. Okay, now moving on to the front, you can give it also similar proportions. So the bigger the side is going to be bigger, right? The upper leg. I'm going to do that here right away to fill in more detail or volume with clay build up. Okay, now I would not recommend to look at any like muscle structure yet, because those are really confusing, or in other words, not confusing but destructive, right? They hide away the bigger structure and trying to show you all the details. And especially for beginners, I wouldn't want to show them the muscle structure at all. I'm just going to show you, okay, this is the arc, this is the volume, right? That's important. If you can figure that out, the rest is basically you can copy the muscle from any anatomy book, and it will be fun because those things can be easily plugged in after you have the correct bigger shape. So let's move on to the knee. The knee is something like it's bending inwards, or it's like a tilted square here, right? And drag it in like that. Okay, and also the inside. Basically, you have a more prominent bulge on the inside. I can draw that out. Something like this on the inside. Okay, you have a smoother body on the outside. Okay, some kind of like feature like this. Okay, and then connect to the bottom or beneath the side. You can see the knee over there. I think my knee's position is a little high, so let me move it down a little bit and fill in more volume for the side. Okay. Again, the knee is this part looks like a tilted square. Okay, now moving down to the bottom, to the lower leg, you can fill in some muscle on the inside. The same feature is it's having a bigger bulge on the inside, or a more prominent but not as long bulge on the inside, like this. Okay, and you have a smoother but longer bulge on the outside. Okay, so you can see this is like more smooth and flat, but it's longer, and this is more prominent, but it ends earlier. Okay, things like that. Although it's not gonna be that prominent, sometimes it's gonna be subtle difference, but definitely not symmetrical at all. Okay, and I'm gonna drag the knee up backwards a little bit, and you can use stem standard to draw a line here from the side of the knee going down. That's a really visible bone structure here, and that bone is called fibula, right, in the front. Actually, not fibula. That one is called tabia, whatever. The smaller one is called the fibula. Okay. Anyway, so you have two bones, of course. If you see any skeleton, you know that there's two bones at the bottom and one on the top. Right. But anyway, just try to figure out those primary up and downs before you try to block in any muscle structure. Okay. Those are going to be destructive. And if you look at real model or human photo or scan data, you can see that they are a little bit visible, but they are pretty much hidden inside. So I wouldn't recommend to even sculpt those guys out if they are not supposed to be visible, right? Unless you really develop those muscles, they are not going to be super visible at all, right? To find out that the bigger arcs, bigger curvatures around the leg is far more important than trying to say, okay, I want to block in all the different muscles. Okay. Now moving on to the back, we don't have anything for the butt. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. The butt, of course, is growing from the edge of the hip, right? The pelvis bone. And it goes like this. Okay, it's like growing from the edge. You can see the direction of the strands I'm drawing out. Okay. And then connect it here. In the anatomy book, it's like something like this, connected here, right? But in reality, though, you don't have this bottom crease goes this way; it goes this way instead. Okay, so even the muscles going there, the actual outer structure will be more like a rounded shape. But here, though, you have a little dip. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and try to plug in that area. Okay. Now here there is a interesting diamond-shaped bulge here in the middle. You can draw that out. Okay. It's visible on the female body here. And I can also smooth these guys out. Okay, now this middle part, of course, is like a really strong visible crease here in the middle. Okay, so I can use stem standard to dig in. And then try to fill in some more volume around it. Okay. So that's the lowest point, somewhere around here. And you have this nice arc, and the crease goes up. Okay, and then I can smooth out, have a better blending with the surroundings. Okay. And from the back or the bottom of the bat, you have, you can think of this as a big capsule kind of shape on the back going downwards. It's separate into two strands connected to the front of the, or to the side of the knee, more or less, like this. Okay. Alright, so we can talk those structures later on. But for now, let's still trying to figure out the bigger shapes. I'm using dem standard to carve in on the side or the bottom of those two branches, and that's how the lower leg is connected to the top. Right? You can find those structures really quickly. So I want you to think about volumes, think about arcs, curvature, think about sizes and proportion. Forget about the name of the muscles. Just analyze or understand the body on this bigger level first, right? On those bigger chunks of volumes, how do they intersect with each other? And then you can dig in and do smaller details, smaller muscles. You can block those smaller muscles afterwards. But if those bigger things are wrong, then it's really hard to get it right. Even you're trying to plug in a lot of muscle structure, it's not gonna look good. Okay. I'm gonna make the butt just a little bit bigger, the back. Okay. So shape-wise, it's pretty smooth. Okay. But if you want to see where the high ground, it's gonna be something like this. Okay, that's the highest ground of the butt around this area, and the others are going in. Right. And you can use edge polish to polish that. And here you don't really see like a lot of stuff beneath the butt, so I'm gonna try to push these guys in. Oftentimes when you're standing still though, and your leg is straight, you don't have much of a gap here in the middle either. But my leg is slightly spreading out just for the ease of sculpting, so that's why I kind of don't really bother if there's a little gap down here in the middle. Right. Blocking the front a little bit more. Okay. All right. So that's the basic shape of the leg. Okay. Now after this, then we can really dig in and see if we can block in some of the muscle structures. But I don't intend to do a lot because you know that this is a female character, and I'm not really wanting to make the body looks muscular by any means. So, but let's go ahead and do something here at least to show you like some of the important landmarks or muscle structures around this area, so we can at least you know, try to learn or review something before we move on to other parts. Okay, see you next time.